Let me show you something. Now this here is a geological map. It has all the information for an area, for the types of rocks, as well as how old they are. Now this is a type of information that's important for communities to make decisions about the land that surrounds them. It can help identify some potential building materials, like here you have copper, you have iron, like potential diamond deposits. It also identifies areas where you can find carving rocks. Basically, it tells you all the valuable natural resources that could potentially be in your area. But to put together a map like this, you need to understand the geology of the area, which means you need to study this. You need to basically understand what types of rocks are in the area, as well as how and how long ago they were formed. Now, how do we gather all this information? Well, let our research scientists show you.
I'm Dr. Daniele Regis, and my background is in geological mapping and study the evolution of ancient rocks here in Canada. All of our projects here started with some sort of fieldwork to collect some rock samples that then we can analyze in different laboratories. This past summer, I spent with colleagues of mine a couple of weeks north of Rankin Inlet in Nunavut because we were interested in understanding the geology of the area that was lastly mapped in the 50s. We collect a lot of samples with support of a helicopter, and we spent the 2 weeks collecting samples that were then shipped back to Ottawa, and the samples will be analyzed. When we map the area, we are looking for all kinds of rocks. Depending on the project, we focus more on some rocks than others. When we try to understand the evolution of the geological evolution of the area, we try to collect a representative sample of each single rock because we need to know which rocks are out there and also the age of the different rocks. We collect the rocks and then we study the age and also the chemistry of the rock and the minerals inside. And we try to understand when these rocks are deformed and also metamorphosed, so they were exposed to variable pressures and temperatures. We try to understand how metals and other elements move within the rocks and the minerals. We go from the big scale in the field, looking at the outcrops, collecting rocks, to the micro and nano scale in this laboratory.
Our scientists come back from the field with hand samples that they collected, and then they come back and slice it down into a really, really thin slice, down to about 0.03 of a millimeter, which we are then able to insert into this instrument, which is called a scanning electron microscope. So we open the chamber here and we would put it right below the center of the instrument. And then once we turn the instrument on, we fire a beam of electrons down at the sample, and the electrons interact with the sample in a number of ways. We can detect the surface morphology, so see different textures. We can detect its composition, and by that, its mineralogy. Then we can also detect crystallographic properties about the sample. And by doing this, we can determine crystal orientation and even detect some subtle differences in mineralogy that aren't detectable by other means.
The interesting thing about this instrument is that it has what we call the electron backscatter diffractor, which is a specific detector that we can use to understand the deformation of the rocks and specifically the minerals within a rock sample. And we're interested in looking at how the rock is deformed because during deformation of the rock, some of the elements or metals can move around. We want to understand how these minerals move and concentrate during the formation if we want to understand where to target a specific area for mineral exploration, for example.
This instrument here is a laser ablation sampling device, and we use this instrument to determine the chemical composition of rocks and minerals. And what we do is we load a rock or mineral into the instrument, and we fire a laser directly at the sample. And so this is an example of one of the types of materials that we have loaded in the instrument right now. And one of the things we're interested here is to see how the chemical composition changes with some of the different layers within the rock, and then tying also the chemical composition to specific minerals that exist within the rock. So the sample is mounted within this cell, and what happens is the laser comes down and directly hits a target on the sample surface. Now this is a destructive technique. What's happening is the laser is actually ablating and causing particles to be extracted from the sample surface. There's some gases here that are flowing on top of the sample, and they actually pick up those particles that have been extracted from the laser ablation site. The material is extracted from this device, sent through this tubing here and into a ICP-MS. This is a plasma-based mass spectrometer, and this is what's used to directly measure the chemical composition of materials. So these are some of the samples we collected in the field this summer. But one of the things that we were really interested in looking at was this particular rock. This is an ancient sedimentary rock, and it has lots of a really interesting mineral magnetite. This is a magnet here, and you can see that it's attracted to the different layers of magnetite within this rock. And one of the aspects that we're really interested with this particular rock is we want to see where different metals are hosted within the layers within this rock, because that can give us an indication of different processes that were active, but also whether or not these could form the basis of an ore deposit in the area. So this is a granite, and one of the reasons we're interested in sampling this particular rock is we don't know how old it is. The rocks in the area that we're doing fieldwork range in age, and so what we want to do is date this rock. To do that, we'll take this sample, crush it up, and we'll separate the different minerals within the rock. One of the minerals that we're really interested in using to date it is zircon. This is a common mineral within our facilities that we use to date different types of rocks. We don't really know how old this rock is, but we have some idea based on other rocks in the area. And our best guess is that this rock is probably older than 2 billion years old.
In all of our projects, we work really close to the communities. For example, for us that we mostly work in Nunavut, we're working with the community of Rankin Inlet and Baker Lake. So we have a strong relationship with the communities there, and we get some feedback from them also because they're the ones that know better their territory, where to go and what to sample, and also what's important for them to know about their land. Usually we have field assistants that come with us, or bear monitors, what we call the wildlife monitors, that we contract, and they come with us, and it's an incredible experience for us and for them, because when we are out in the field, we share knowledge about geology or traditional knowledge about their land. All the data that we have is going to be released to the public and published. We share this information also with the communities so they can make their own decisions on how to use their own land.
Geological mapping isn't just about charts and data. It's about unraveling history and gaining a better understanding of the land we live on. For example, ever wonder about the impacts that the Ice Age had on the geology of northern Labrador? It's fascinating. Check out the video on screen right now to see how our experts are using their detective skills to map the paths of these once great ice sheets. And don't forget to do all the YouTube things, like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next video.